who is your dark horse in the Big Ten in 2022?
Believe it or not, man, I really like this team this year. And on paper, I like Maryland. Taulia Tagovailoa, Tua's little brother. The dude, so I went back and so I'm taking Blue Bloods really serious this year. Not that I didn't the year before, but I'm going back and watching games and film, because I want to give very good points why I believe it. If you really watch him play, the dude's an NFL quarterback. He's not as poised as his brother. He's a little bit more gunslinger. But this is why I say back. To me, outside of C.J. Stroud, he might be the second best quarterback in the conference. Some people will argue and say no. They'll say Peyton Thorne out of Michigan State. I think he's personally better. If J.J. McCarthy's not the starter at Michigan, I think he's the second best quarterback in the conference. And listen to the schedule. This is why, Trey. Buffalo, then Charlotte, then they play SMU. Now, if Sonny Dykes was still at SMU, I would feel a little bit, but midst of a coaching regime change. Not saying that they get a good coach, but I would be a little bit. Then they play Michigan, Michigan State, which I'm not. That secondary is terrible. Purdue. Now we know what they're doing over there on the other side of the conference, but I think that's a winnable game. Indiana, winnable game. Northwestern, winnable game. Wisconsin. I mean, if you can get a lead on them early, winnable game. Penn State. You never know which Penn State you're going to get. That's a winnable game for Maryland, actually. Then Ohio State, they lose that, and then Rutgers, winnable game. It wouldn't shock me if they were a game or two behind where you're like, wait a minute, if the chips fall the right way for them, they can actually win 9-10 football games this year.
Okay. Now, I do think with Maryland, because of the side that they're on, they don't stand a chance at winning the conference, but I hear what you're saying, and here's mine. All right, and I've put a lot of thought into this. I'm sitting here trying to arrange to make sure I got all my notes. I'm going with the Purdue Boilermakers. All right? I actually think they've got the second, maybe third best quarterback in the conference who's about to be a sixth-year senior. I think he got that COVID year as Aiden O'Connell, who really came on last season. And Purdue, it's like they've – since Brohm has been there, and let me just stay here. I obviously, being an Arkansas guy, I have a soft spot in my heart for people of the Petrino coaching tree. I already referenced him and his style earlier on this episode, but it's just a very unique offense, and their philosophy is FTS, which is feed the studs. In whatever way possible, get the guys in. They're not just stuck on one style of play. But it's, what do we have? What do we do well? Who are our best players? And let's find the most creative way to get them the ball. And you've seen flashes of that with Purdue over the last few seasons. They just haven't really been able to put anything together on both sides of the ball. And then last year, they really started to turn the corner. They got the bowl win. They finished 9-4. And now they're coming back in. They lost their top receiver, but they brought in 3 transfers. They got 2 guys from Iowa who were pretty explosive. And they got a guy who's like 6'4", red zone type guy from Auburn. So they're sort of reloading as far as their weapons are concerned. Yeah. I don't know what their run game's going to look like, but that's just the thing. Whatever they do well, that's what they're going to do. You know, I mean, I think a great example when you look at Petrino, who Brohm is sort of he's a part of that tree. He coached under him, and then obviously his brother played for him, and that's his OC right now at Purdue. But look at I don't think you can find 2 more opposite quarterbacks than Lamar Jackson and Ryan Mallett, right? You've got a 6'7" statue and, a 6'1", 6'2", like Michael Vick reincarnated type player.
Speed demon.
Both of them were Petrino quarterbacks. Both of them, one took a team to the Sugar Bowl for the first time in school history. The other one won the Heisman. Like, it's all about finding the strengths of the players and really doing what they do well. Because, in college football, you have a lot of coaches who get so stuck on what they do and trying to recruit guys that can do what they do well, like what their philosophy does well. Like Leach, he likes having quarterbacks that are incredibly accurate with smaller receivers who can get open in space, catch the ball, and make, in that air raid system. You have other guys that they want to build up front, real powerful, get some running backs in there, and then just hit you in the mouth all game, running up and down the field.
Right.
You know, Brohm, he just goes, okay, what do we have? What do we do well? What are our best players? And let's figure out a creative way to get them the ball. So they got a very exciting offense. Their defense starting to kind of catch up. And I like their schedule, man. I mean, I really think – because I was almost going to say this as a hot take, but I really think Purdue could win the West. Because listen to this. And it's all going to come down – this is what's crazy – to their first game. Their first game of the season is on a Thursday night against Penn State. And this is arguably – their toughest game of the season, but that's to your point, Brandon, depending on which Penn State shows up. But they've got a third. But why is that important? Because you have all of fall camp to prepare for this game. Now, you don't have much tape of that team that you're playing because it's their first game too. But I think that that Thursday, Penn State, that's going to set the tone. And if they can win that game, listen to this. They follow that up with Indiana State, Syracuse, Florida Atlantic, and then they play at Minnesota and at Maryland. But if they're 4-0, I think they carry that momentum into both of those games. They come back home against Nebraska, which what Nebraska's going to show up. I mean, they were the best 3-9 team in all of college football last year, but
I've ever seen in my life.
Are they going to put anything together? If they're rolling by that point, this will probably be their second toughest game, is where they play at Wisconsin.
Yep.
Then they play Iowa, Illinois, Northwestern, Indiana. That is a Big Ten schedule. They do not play Ohio State. They do not play Michigan. They do not play Michigan State. I can't think of a more favorable schedule for a Big Ten West team to draw. And with the momentum they have, with the experience they have at the quarterback position, with the coach they have, I really could see this team not running the table in the sense of, oh, they're going to go undefeated, but running the table in the sense of they win the Big Ten West and then they match up with either Michigan or Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. And I'm telling you right now, Purdue has been a little bit of a thorn in the side of Ohio State. Not year in and year out, but there's been some – like when Rondale Moore had his breakout party when they beat Ohio State.
There was the Rondale Moore breakout party. Then earlier in the decade, they had what's the kid Kerrigan, where Ryan Kerrigan played there. They upset them. Like they've played Ohio State tough every year.
If I had to pick my dark horse to win the conference, I'm going with Purdue. And yeah, obviously there is some of that personal tie I feel that I have to Brohm, being a disciple of Bobby Petrino, who I, as an Arkansas guy, I know he's kind of polarized Arkansas fan base, but I like him. And he responds to me on Twitter. So me and Bobby, we got a little conversation going back and forth on Twitter. He's at Missouri State now, so shout out Coach Petrino. Okay. All right, B, kicking it back over to you. If you had to name another dark horse without even going into any kind of –
I can tell you right off the top. You only have to Northwestern.
Because it's the Fitzgerald,
It's the Fitzgerald thing. Terrible season to great season. And I almost picked them because of that. Like, I don't know who plays on their team. I don't know who's their starting core. I don't care. It's the Fitzgerald effect. Bad year, great year. Bad. If there's ever a guy that gets more out of his squad, it's Fitzgerald, man. That dude, like every other year, you're like, how is Northwestern freaking 9-3 right now?
How are they playing Ohio State in the Big Ten championship right now?
Yeah,
like, what's happening?
Like I don't even need to look at their team. I'm just like, yeah, they had a terrible year last year. They'll probably have a good one this year. They'll probably be like 8-5 and play a couple teams down to the wire. And you're like, there we go. It's just what they.
And then I'm on the flip side. I'm going to go Minnesota. PJ Fleck. They went 9-4 last year after losing their after losing their stud
Ibrahim
in the first. Wasn't it the first game of the season?
Ibrahim against Ohio State because he had him on skates, man.
And he's back, and I believe their quarterback. They
Morgan's
also
back.
have a 6th-year senior at quarterback. So a lot of the same reasons why I like Purdue. Some of the same reasons why I like Minnesota.